Well, hello, it's good to see you again. Now, I'm back at one of my favourite spots at the Joyces Creek end of Carn Reservoir in central Victoria. And as you can see behind me, there's not too much water left here. When I was here earlier in the season, the water was spread right across this gully down here, so it's dropping at a rapid rate. But anyway, it's probably about 40 minutes before sunset, and I'm going to attempt tonight a day-to-night time-lapse facing towards the west where the Milky Way core is going to be settling down into the sky. Also, while I'm here, I'll try and get a few Milky Way shots with the dead trees in the foreground. As well as that, I might even try panorama. So let's get into it and see how we go. Now, one thing I am very keen to do before the sun goes down completely is take the drone out for a spin. So let's get it going. Here we go. All right, well, what I'm doing here is I'm setting up my Nikon D750 with a 14 to 24 f2.8 lens facing in the southwesterly direction where I know the Milky Way core is going to be coming down. I've set up so like I'm composing a very wide shot here. I'm getting these dead trees and a little bit of water down. Now, I was disappointed the water wasn't closer down the front here, but I was probably a couple of weeks too late for that. Now, what I've got here is an intervalometer which will do bulb ramping. And what that's going to do, I'm going to start off at f2.8, 1/2000th of a second, it's broad daylight, ISO 100, and then it's going to, as the sun goes down, it's going to ramp the exposure down, hopefully, and it'll end up at 15 or 20 second exposures at f2.8 at ISO 2500. So, and then we do our day to night time lapse. So let's see how we go. So I've input the settings. And now I'm just going to let it go. This thing will go for as long as you have it sitting here. So it's probably going to be hours. And it's taking, at the moment, the daylight shots at 1/2000th of a second, and it's taking one shot every 8 seconds. And that's going to draw out as the light gets lower down to one shot every 20 seconds, which will give me that longer exposure. And this machine does it all. I don't have to touch it from here on. I've got to make sure all the batteries are freshly charged, because it's going to be sitting here for quite a while. So I'm just going to leave it, and I'm going to go back to the car and see what else I can come up with. So it's quite interesting looking along this water line here. The water's beautiful and still, so I think it'll make a great image and a great reflection for when the stars get down lower in the sky later. Biggest problem for me is going to be actually getting down there without getting mud all over my boots, and all of these insects. They are absolutely thick and driving me crazy at the moment, but we're heading into summer, that's what you get. Wow, so I'm just looking straight down the water here at the moment, and that reflection of the sun in there is just beautiful. It's clear, it's actually just beautiful. Nice clean water, which is a little bit unusual because it's been sitting here, but this is the Joyces Creek, and this is the original creek that used to run all the way through before the Carn Reservoir was established way back over 100 years ago. Looks awesome. Now, I've just started walking through this grass back to the car, and I'm following this little track which goes along here. And then I realised, I reckon that might have been a snake that's gone through there, because it was just a very skinny little track. So I'm going back the other way. Okay, so here we are amongst the birds and we're experiencing what is commonly called blue hour. You can see behind me there the gorgeous colour in the sky, bit of cloud and everything. That'll look fantastic on my time lapse, which is putting away down there on the water. So I've got a little bit of time to kill before it gets dark enough for me to shoot the Milky Way. So I'm just going to chill out here. I'll probably put a bit of bug spray on because the bugs are everywhere out here at the moment. But there's no one around. It's very, very quiet. There's no wind. It's still a fantastic night for photography. Ugh. Ooh. Ugh. Mosquitoes. Okay, now one of the things I will do, which I didn't mention before, is for my time lapse down there, when it gets dark, the foreground just vanishes and disappears into nothingness. So what I often do is put a low level light, which is this one here, Z96 video light, on the stand down there, and it just gives a really dull light onto the trees and the foreground grass, etc. So that when the exposures get long and the sky gets really dark, you can still see the front and shape of the subject matter. So I better go and get that down there because it's getting fairly dark. And by the time I get this, it has to be on a very, very low level. I've been caught before where I put it too high in the daytime thinking it's very dull. And when it gets dark, well, it blows out. So let's do that. All right, now I know you guys are pretty familiar with the use of these lights. I use them for a lot of different things. Now, what I'm going to do is sit this down here, light up the trees behind me, and as the light level drops down, the very low level light here will take over and light up the ambience. Well, that's my plan anyway. Now you'll notice I don't have the orange gel on the front of my light tonight. Now the reason for that is because I set the white balance in the camera to daylight. Well, it's 5,000 Kelvin, which is pretty close to daylight. So if I had to put the orange gel on the front, it would just be too orange and I'd have to be playing around with it later. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to balance it all out later on. Hopefully I can adjust the foreground separately to the sky and I think that'll look pretty good. So let's just put this in place. Okay, so I've got that light sitting there, and as you can see, well, you mightn't even be able to see, it's only just on at the moment. You can't see much at all. But I guarantee it is on just that little bit. And I'm hoping that that works well enough to light the scene here whilst the machine here is clicking away doing the time lapse. Now the time lapse view has this cool feature that when you wave your hand behind the screen, you can actually get a preview of what you've been looking at. And at the moment, you can see just a little preview on the top of the machine there, which is giving me a bit of an idea of what the thing looks like. So the idea is to wave your hand. It's a little bit clunky in its operation, this intervalometer, but it's pretty good when you get the setup right. Oh wow, I'll tell you what, this is Mother Nature at her finest. This is the best time to be out looking at the night sky, just in that blue hour, just before the stars come out. I can see a couple of very bright stars at the moment, but generally speaking, there's just reflections. There's a few clouds up behind me there, and it just looks beautiful. Amazing. Okay, so here you can see once again, photo pills. And on the phone app, all I'm doing is just simply holding it with the scene in front of me. And you can see once you put your finger, you just move your finger down, you'll see the Milky Way core come down lower right over the top of that tree. And that's what I want to be shooting, and that's what the time lapse is shooting currently. Okay, well, I'm not sure if you guys can see this behind me, but it's going off. It's absolutely beautiful back there. I'm seeing stars, there's a couple of planets just setting down low, which I think you can just see behind me. I'm cranking up the G9 to the max, and it's absolutely phenomenal conditions at the moment. We've just about got out of blue hour and we're into a really dark sky. The Milky Way cores come down nice and low, and I'm going to get out there in a minute and shoot it, but it is just absolutely amazing out here. just walked up from the valley there and I took a couple of shots down there of that tree just near where the time lapse is happening. I was careful not to upset that apple cart down there. It's still going down there. It's taken well over 500 shots, I think, so far. But anyway, I took a couple of shots down there. Then I brought the camera up here to the top of the hill overlooking the valley where the creek's running through. And I decided I wanted to take a panorama. So I took, set the camera up to f2.8, ISO 6400 at 15-second exposures. D750 20mm f1.8 lens set to f2.8. So then I just took 2 horizontal rows of 6, so 12 shots in total, and I reckon that'll come up okay. Alright, so I'm packing up all the gear here, so I'm just about ready to go down and pick up that time-lapse camera, so let's do that. Wow, look at this, 758 frames, so that's about 3¼ hours it's been sitting out here shooting away. I'm not going to go through them all now, but they're all there, so I can't wait to see how that comes up. Going to be awesome. Alright, well, finally got it all back to the car. I'm about a 50-minute drive from home, so I'm just going to pack all this stuff up and hit the road. Well, all in all, I think we've had a pretty successful night out under the stars together. And I'm looking forward to see the results from all the images that we've taken, especially that time lapse. So thanks again for joining me, really appreciate it. Look forward to the next time. See you later.